Hey, I'm McCoy here, and you are listening to the Solar Panel, the Phoenix Suns Show.
No Dave King this week. It's very unfortunate. I know he might be on the episode later, but we are joined for the first time on this podcast by Ashley Nevel. She is a reporter for Brightside of the Sun. You can find her on Twitter at Ashley Nevel. Ashley, thank you for filling in for Dave King.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. How are you?
It's nice to finally have somebody that's talented from Brightside show up on the show.
That's me. No, but Dave's been great. Me and him have been like swapping in and out of games with each other. So the season's been awesome. But I'm surprised it's taken this long to be on the show.
Yeah,
I think a fan suggested it.
It was Dave Brogner.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, shout out to him. Shout out to him.
Dave just never wanted you on, so that's why. But and then he doesn't show up when you show up. So read into that what you will.
Coincidence? I think not.
And Mr. Greg Esposito at Espo on Twitter.
Still here, unfortunately.
My name is Tim Tompkins at Radio Tim NBA. So Adrian Wojnarowski tweeting out after a head coaching interview with Sixers assistant Monty Williams tonight for Toronto. Suns officials are flying to Portland to meet Blazers assistant David Vanterpool and Nate Tibbetts on Saturday. League sources tell ESPN. So it looks like the Suns are interviewing some assistant coaches.
If they do not hire Monty Williams and they go with another assistant coach with no head coaching experience, what in the world was the point outside of James Jones simply wanting his own guy, right? We haven't talked about any of this since all of this went down and Igor was let go. And I don't have a problem with letting Igor go. All right, we all get it. It was a 19-win season. It was not very good. Where my problem lies is trying to treating all of us like idiots in a press conference and basically saying it was because he was brought in to coach a team of veterans and they went to youth. When I went back almost exactly a year, it was to May 3rd, 2018, the day that they hired Igor Kokoskov, and the direct quote was that, or I don't have the direct quote, but the quote was something to the extent of that they brought him in because of his player development and that he'd be able to help the young guys. So do not blow smoke up our backsides here. Tell us like it is. As James Jones simply wanted his own guy in here, which is ironic because 2/3 of the people that hired James Jones are still part of the decision-making process with the Phoenix Suns and James Jones, or excuse me, 2/3 of the people that hired Igor Kokoskov are still part of the Suns front office and decision-making with James Jones and Robert Sarver. So this was simply James Jones wants his guy. Now, if you wind up firing Igor Kokoskov because of what they were saying, the reasoning was, and hiring another assistant coach, you don't get an established head coach. You get another assistant coach. That's a problem to me. You're not changing anything. And it was all talk of championship culture, right? None of these guys are talking to or have championship experience, and in particular at the head coaching level. So what are you really trying to do here? I'm not 100% sure.
Well, Ashley, you did have an article recently on Brightside of the Sun where there were some unnamed players that had some quotes, and we can keep them unnamed for the show, but perhaps you can shed a little bit of light on what some of the players thought of Igor.
I think it was obvious, when you were watching games in general, just the body language itself. I mean, you could already make the assumption that players didn't really respect him like players should when they have a coach. I mean, look at the way Doc Rivers players play for him. There's a complete different dynamic when you look at the coaching here. And when I talk to some of these players, they respect him. It's just a matter of not wanting to listen to him. And it was unfortunate because Igor is a good coach, but a lot of them would say, hey, he's a good assistant coach. They couldn't relate to him. There'd be players sometimes that would tell me, I can't understand a word he's saying. Like, I don't know what he wants me to be doing. There are players who are coming out of practice, coming out of games, like just confused about certain things that he wanted done on the court. His expectations of them weren't clear. So that was an interesting take. And I kind of knew going into all of this that Igor was only going to be here a year. probably about midway through the season, I could say that he's going to be out of here. And I heard from sources that he was going to be fired. It was just a matter of when, and everyone's like, well, they're not going to fire him after a year. Well, I mean, we've seen what they've done with all their previous coaches, 5 coaches in 5 years. I mean, anything is possible with the Suns organization. And I know the players were not happy. I don't know how much Devin had to do with anything. I mean, James Jones pretty much says that Devin doesn't always play a factor in all the decisions that are being made, even though he should. So he's one of those guys I hadn't talked to about this, but it'd be interesting to know his true thoughts, because they all said, oh, he's a great coach, I respect him, whatever the organization wants to do, I'm a part of, but I don't know if all of that's true.
The thing is, James Jones, he also said that Robert Sarver had nothing to do with this decision.
Right? I didn't understand that either.
I don't believe that anything that he said in terms of who had input. I mean, Devin Booker very much may have had a seat at the table. Hell, Larry Fitzgerald may have too, since we heard he's been involved. But
that's really strange.
Yeah, James Jones really seems like, when you get an alpha dog that wants to mark everywhere in your house to prove that that's his territory. I get that feeling from that James Jones press conference. This was only my decision, mine and mine alone, and just basically making a point that this is his team now. And there's a few other things, and I think we're going to get into them later in the episode, that seem to be that way too, that he's just very much trying to prove that he's in charge right now. And that is, I think that weighed heavily in the decision as well as in letting Igor go. But it's interesting to hear the players' thoughts on that. But they had Earl Watson, a guy who had just finished playing 2 years prior, that they could connect to, and we got the same results out of that as well.
He wasn't a good coach, though.
That's true.
That's definitely the difference. They need to find someone who's a good coach and someone that can coach players and have that relationship. I mean, the relationship part is so huge. And I know that there was a communication barrier. I know there was a cultural barrier. They would all go through Joe. Joe is like that guy that everyone can talk to. If they had a question about anything, Joe is that guy. But again, Joe isn't a head coach. You need your head coach to be able to lead the ship.
Joe's gone now too, right?
Right.
Yes.
They're all gone. They literally cleared everyone out.
The irony there too is when Lindsey Hunter was head coach for that brief time, Igor Kokoskov was actually the guy that was running all the huddles and that the players were going to. So it was almost a complete reversal of what you're saying with Prunty. So that's funny to me as well.
Yeah, it was definitely everything was just, it was an interesting season. I know that there was also players who were unhappy with playing time. There were players who lost playing time when other guys got here. Obviously, they weren't happy. The whole TJ thing.
Specifically?
Pardon?
Can you speak to that more specifically?
Yeah, so, there was, the whole thing with TJ sitting out. I thought that was super sketchy. I knew that when he didn't come back for the first couple weeks, I was like, this is probably it. I knew that there was mutual decision between him and the Suns that they both he didn't want to play, and the Suns didn't want him anymore. So expect him 100% to be a part of some sort of trade that goes down in the offseason. I'm going to bet my money on him, like a package for him, Josh, and maybe a couple other things. Because if you think about Kelly Oubre, he's going to be staying. So what does that cut in? That cuts into all of Josh's time, his playing time. And I know Josh probably wants to go somewhere to make an impact, but if you're going to choose between him and Kelly. So I think there was a lot of different things going on with all the moves throughout the season. It's not just, the coach, but it was just the players not understanding, like, what is the Suns organization trying to do? And I think it's they have to understand that they're a young team. They have to do what's best for them. But at the end of the day, it's like, TJ was told, all right, you need to increase your 3-point shot. He did that. He came out, had a great season, gets hurt. I know he wasn't happy with playing time, he didn't want to play there. I mean, it's kind of those situations like the Morris twins, Bledsoe, and Tyson Chandler, like when all these guys end up leaving, then we start to hear the truth of like what really went down. And a lot of these guys don't want to play here.
Well,
and I don't know if it's going to get any better.
TJ isn't exactly hiding it either. I mean, I was on Twitter a handful of days before the season ended, and I said, look, the Suns organization should give TJ Warren his $250,000 bonus because it's five 3-point shots. They should do it. He earned it, and he liked that tweet. So he's very publicly,
really?
So he's not exactly hiding it with his displeasure either. So, and you know what? Really, the Phoenix Suns marketing slogan next year should be the Phoenix Suns. What the hell are we doing? Because it's been a decade of that and people questioning the same thing. And if you're not going to keep players happy, if you're going to have constant change and chaos, this is what you're going to breed is an organization and a team that isn't sure what in the world is expected of them or that's going on. And I don't think it's going to change with James Jones from what I'm hearing from people.
Well, another interesting thing too, that I don't know if a lot of media, like I like to read in between the lines. I don't like to make assumptions of what players or what James Jones is saying, but I can definitely read in between the lines and make assumptions on certain things. But it was interesting to me when Jamal Crawford, they had their exit interviews, and he was saying like him and TJ would always talk, and TJ didn't really talk to media. He literally was he was the only one that like walked away from all of us. And I knew from there, like, all right, he's not coming back to the Suns. He doesn't like to talk anyway. But him and Jamal hit it off with music, and he said, yeah, TJ really wanted to be back out there and play with us, and he was actually like scrimmaging with them in practice, and we weren't seeing any of that stuff. But I mean, I've heard from other people that they've kind of seen him playing even outside of the facility, nothing too crazy, but outside of the facility, still getting his shots up, he's still working out. So I thought that was really interesting. I never really reported it just because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but I mean, that's kind of crazy that someone is fully healthy and he was benched for the entire season.
Well, so, you know he wanted to get out there, even if it was just to jack up 5 shots and 5 3-pointers and sit right out. That would not shock me if the money played a big part in why he didn't play. I mean, it just would not shock me one bit if that were the case. And look, like I said at the beginning, I have no problem with firing Igor Kokoskov. Obviously, there were issues there, but you now have to prove that you had a quality alternative. And what I didn't understand is why prolong it, right? Why wait as long as they did to do that? If you knew I almost said Monty Hall. That's Monty Williams was the guy you wanted to go after and pursue. Let him go day one of the offseason and go after Monty Williams. Don't wait until he's had his second interview with the Lakers.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they waited. Maybe they waited to kind of see, all right, what are some other teams looking into? Because obviously the Suns can't do anything good by themselves, so they need to kind of see what everyone else is doing. Okay, if that's a good interview for a coach, maybe we should pursue him too.
Oh, great. So now James Jones is taking my approach to high school Latin, kind of lean over and look off the other guy's test. Great, exactly. That's fantastic. That's what you want from your general manager, a guy who can't decide until he sees what LeBron and the Lakers are going to do. Wonderful.
You know, another guy that I thought would be interesting, sorry to cut you off. Another guy that I thought would have been really interesting for them to try to pursue is Juwan Howard. And I'm actually surprised that it hasn't been a name, because I know that he's done a really good job with the Heat. I don't know how good of a coach he is, but I do know player development, relationships are there. But he has a good relationship with James Jones. So, like, I don't know why that wouldn't even be a consideration.
My guess is he's the name that eventually emerges, and it was one of those James Jones didn't want it to look like the first name that gets out there is his buddy.
Yeah.
And that was why he was so adamant about, I'm not going to discuss names. I'm not going to talk about specific people in this search. Yeah. That's my guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least the Suns didn't pull a Kings. Hire Luke Walton, and then have to deal with the impact of that.
Hey, there's still time. You don't know what's going to happen when they hire somebody, all right? And I heard Jason Kidd was a name that got thrown out there, and there's all sorts of potential for things to go sideways if that's who they go with. So
I would not go with him either.
Jason,
I'm not high on him.
He likes to throw his own name into a lot of hats.
This is true.
He does.
That would not shock me either if that was a was oh yeah, I'm in talks with the Sun. Sure, call a specific few media members to get his own name out there. So
hopefully whoever they choose, they can give him at least longer than a year. Give them a little bit more of a chance to prove themselves. Try to find some stability.
Why?
I think they're going to go with Earl Watson. They're going to go a season and 3 games for this next guy. You get the full Watson.
But we do want to thank you listening on your headphones right now or watching on YouTube for being a huge supporter of the Sun Solar Panel podcast. If you want to do a monthly donation, whether that be $1, $5, or the $10 option, in that case, I will personally send you some Sun swag. All you got to do is open up the show notes on your podcasting app below or open up the YouTube, and there's a link right there for support the show this week. We do want to thank Paul. So, Paul, thank you so very much for the monthly donation. We appreciate it. If you guys want to help as well, it really does go a long way.
Yeah, I mean, you're helping Dave get hair dye and everything to make him feel younger. So you just keep doing that, everybody. We need that support. We won't tell you what other age-related stuff he's buying, but you're helping him out. So.
Oh God.
And he needs a new webcam.
You just put some weird thoughts in my head.
Kill us.
Welcome to the solar panel. So.
Thank you.
And
he didn't warn me about this.
No. The presenting sponsor of the episode, Valley Boys, valley-boys.com.
I'm rocking this shirt.
Yes.
We can make that happen.
I don't know.
I'm the only. Wow, I'm wearing a plain black tank top. That's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
We will.
I technically can't be a Valley Boy though. It'd have to be like Valley Girls or something, but I don't think that would fit.
I think everybody can be a Valley Boy. I don't think there's I mean, we can ask Kelly Oubre for clarification, but I'm pretty sure it's all encompassing. So
yeah, no, I need to get one. I saw someone bought a hat. The hats look cool too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the official merch of Kelly, but I know that there is some stuff out there that's Valley Boys.
Yeah,
so he's gonna have to patent that or copyright, whatever you want to call it.
We'll get you hooked up. So
thank you.
But yeah, I'm impressed with the gear. It's actually, you get some of these T-shirts, these other shows, websites, they hawk this stuff, and it's crappy quality. But I actually would rock these T-shirts if I weren't getting, asked to. So
you know what I would rock? I would rock a jersey with my on the back.
Oh, I don't know who would have that. And how would they get that?
That's a great idea. So like when you're walking around, you could gain followers, like people look at your jersey, go to their phone, open Twitter, follow.
Okay, so for those of you listening and not watching on YouTube, in my home office, there's a jersey over my shoulder with my @name. That was a gift when I left the Suns after my 5-year stint there. That was a personal
5 years.
Yeah.
Wow, It wasn't 1 year. You must have been doing something right. Well,
Robert Sarver didn't know my name, so it took 5 years for him to figure it out and excommunicate me. So that was how it happened.
Oh my gosh.
Just for a moment, keeping it on Valley Boys, they do have gear for the ladies. So by all means, that is valley-boys with a Z.com. So the Pelicans targeting Aaron Nelson.
All right. Now you just pulled the string. It's time to. This may be my final straw because there was the other report. I think it was Arnovitz on the Zach Lowe podcast saying James Jones is looking to completely clear house, including training staff and equipment managers and everybody. And that's it for me. If that happens, you've completely officially crossed the line, because these are guys that have dedicated their entire professional career to this organization, are some of the most well-respected in the NBA. And if James Jones decides that it's time to just clear house to simply clear house because he wants a quote-unquote championship mentality across the board, that's it for me, all right? Because it's ruling by fear, I think, and he's taking a page from Robert Sarver here, where it's everybody outside of the organization in his mind is better than those inside the organization. The grass is greener, and it's just not the case. These guys are some of the best in the business on that training staff. Mm. And what is James Jones is constantly talking about this championship mentality, right? what does James Jones know about being a champion outside of his whole championship mentality is LeBron James? Is he somehow bringing LeBron to Phoenix? Because without LeBron James, James Jones has no championships. All right. He rode on LeBron's coattails. It's not like he was a key component in those championships. It's not like he went to organizations that knew huge amounts about it. Miami, maybe a little bit with Pat Riley. Maybe he learned a little bit there from Pat Riley. But the majority of what he knows about winning titles is having the best player in the game on your roster. So what are these moves really about outside of him just wanting his people in here? This one immensely frustrates me, and it's personal to me, which I think you can probably tell because I know those guys. I've talked to those guys. You know how hard they work and the things that they implement to try to help these guys be the best that they can. They single-handedly kept Steve Nash, Shaquille O'Neal, and Grant Hill's careers alive at the end with everything that they did. They brought procedures and technology to the league that nobody was using, and now they're just going to be discarded. I actually kind of hope Aaron and the group winds up with Dave Griffin out in the Pelicans in New Orleans, because I know they're going to take care of him. I know that they're going to appreciate him, and that's obviously not the case right now in Phoenix.
Yeah, it's interesting that Dave Griffin would make that move, having been here and knowing, the Suns previously. But yeah, I had talked to David Griffin before he took this job and asked him, what the Suns should do with this organization. And I'm actually surprised that James Jones was kept at GM or announced that he was going to be GM and not have someone hired above him who actually knows what they're doing. And that's no offense to James Jones at all. But as we could see from this past year, we don't know what he's doing. And like you said, he played basketball. I got to give him some credit. I mean, he's a 3-time champion. I mean, even if you're on the bench, you still get a ring. And his impact goes way beyond what he's done on the court. But again, what experience does he have as a GM? None. I mean, when you look at the Sixers organization, Elton Brand? He has someone above him making most of the calls. I mean, a lot of people don't know that, but he's not doing all this making the choices by himself.
No, and the infrastructure was there too.
Right, it's there, but that's the thing is that James. It's like, who's mentoring and telling James Jones what to do?
Robert Sarver.
Who can't
that's his mentor.
Jeez, that is horrible mentor. No offense. I hope I still have my job next year.
Robert picks.
Well, it's not the Suns that pay you, right?
I know. And
that's
Robert.
A good point. I try to be nice though.
Robert picks people that align with his view of things that he can have a major influence over. And that's why you see a lot of first-time people, a lot of his guys, quote unquote, that he winds up aligning with. And I don't care what James Jones said. Robert Sarver is still heavily involved in all of this. And Jeff Bower, that hiring is so confusing to me. You bring an adult in the room and then give him absolutely no power. I mean, he probably was just like, all right, I'll take a paycheck. Why not? If you want to pay me, I'll come in. I'll try to advise, but he has no power in that room, which is crazy to me.
Well, that was another thing that David had talked to me about, is the fact that no one ever is able to it's like they hire you to do the job and then they don't let you do the job.
Mm-hmm. They pull the rug out.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I would have loved to see David Griffin back here. And I told him that. I'm like, we need you, man. But obviously he knew that wasn't going to happen. But again, the Suns, like you said, hire people, or Sarver hires people that align with him, basically agreeing with everything that he says and does. But we hear this all the time from former players who are like, Sarver came into the locker room and tried telling us how to play, tried giving his 2 cents. Like, I don't even know if he's picked up a basketball before. Like, I don't even know if he's ever played in his life. Not saying that you can't be knowledgeable about the game without playing, because let me tell you, I am not very good. All right. I miss a lot of uncontested shots, but I already know that if I wanted to hire someone to make my organization better, I would hire someone who knows what they're doing, and I would know how to step away and back up. He should just be the guy that provides the money. He owns the team. He has the money, and let everyone else do the job.
Look, and I get wanting to protect your investment, but really, I mean, yeah, you hire people that you trust to do a job, and then you step back and you let them do the job. Like, and yeah, of course, you have say in larger financial decisions, but you step back and you let them do it, and he has never ever been able to do that, and that's just frustrating. And I don't think it's going to change. I mean,
so speaking to that though, the coaching search. Flying all the way up to Toronto, then flying to Portland. Guess who was not on that plane?
Sarver.
Right.
Well, that doesn't mean
something from that. Maybe he is trying to change his ways,
or he doesn't care,
or maybe
he already made up his mind,
or he already knew that those weren't serious candidates, and that part of this is a dog and pony show to say that you did your due diligence before you hire somebody that you actually want.
That's a good. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
They knew there weren't going to be any offers made, and so he didn't care.
Are we at this point in our fandom of the Suns team that we can only assume the negative when it comes to Robert Sarver?
No, because when you've seen it from the inside. Look, I've said this. Robert Sarver, it can be a very nice man at times. It's not an indication of the person, but he can also be so irrational in decision making. Having seen it from the inside, I just don't have faith that when it comes down to making the right decision and sticking with it, that he'll do it. So yeah, the assumption usually is going to be a negative, and there's over a decade's worth of proof to show that that's the way it should be. Respect is not given, respect is earned. And what has he done to earn the respect from fans?
I just want to know what the league can do. Like, I wish there was a way to remove him,
because he's not racist, and he's not, to our knowledge, assaulting women.
To our knowledge,
But he's just a bad owner. So you can't.
You can't take a business from somebody just because they're not good at doing it. I mean, the biggest hope here is the arena renovations get done. The team's never going to be worth more than it is at that point, and he decides, I'm going to take my $1.2 billion of profit and walk away from this at that point. But I just don't know that he's going to do it. And reports are that the minority owners aren't happy about it. But the way that the bylaws of the Suns organization are written, they have really no power whatsoever about it to do anything to change it.
Crazy. That's crazy, because we need something, especially with Devin Booker. I know we were going to talk about him and transition to that anyways, but
here's the thing. So Dave wrote this show outline today.
He did,
and I got it, and I appreciate him writing it. I don't agree, so we aren't going to talk about half that stuff. We can if you really dive into playoffs and what Devin Booker would look like in the playoffs. I'm more than happy to.
I don't know what he would look like in the playoffs because we haven't seen, and typically. He's going to need more than a year under his belt for us to decide how good he is in the playoffs. Because we see guys who've been in the playoffs every year, and then they go scoreless in a game. Or then we see a guy like Jamal Murray who's going off and who's hitting big shots to seal the game, or Landry Shamet, or some of these guys. So I don't know. We would have to see. But Booker, he needs to speak up, and this is something else that I've heard. Won't name names, is Booker he's not vocal enough sometimes. So as much, he does say a lot. I respect, he does respect Sarver. I know him and Sarver have a great relationship. That's a fact. But I don't know how much he speaks up on things. Like, hey, this is what I want. This is what I want here. This is what I need. I don't think he knows how to speak up, because there were several instances that I would hear where Devin can step in, stick up for his teammates, but instead just kind of sits back and is quiet. So that's another element to me, where if you're leading a team, and I understand Devin's very humble, he's a good guy, he's really nice. He's not like a LeBron where he just carries himself very different. But if you're the leader of a team, you have to demand something, or else you have to leave, or else you demand to be out. And that's what LeBron did at that point. with the Cavs all those years. They weren't giving him what he needed, so he left. The same situation is going to happen with Booker. If number one, he doesn't step up and say something, and number two, if they don't start winning.
Look, I love Book, but it's easy to respect somebody when he hands you $158 million. I'd have a lot more respect for certain people if they wrote me that kind of check as well. So
he wants to win. He wants to win.
I know he does.
$58 million, Greg, I would get down on my knees.
I'm not paying you 100.
That's just.
I'll pay you 158. I pay you 158 million not to. How about that, Tim?
Listen. So I want to get Ashley's take a little bit about the offseason. Ashley, what you've heard or you think that the Suns might do with the pick. You brought up a little while earlier something that, Suns fans and different media members have debated TJ Warren being traded. You make it sound like it's a lot more of a certainty than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, what are your thoughts for the Suns heading into this offseason?
Oh man, they have a lot to think about in terms of their draft picks. They can always package that into some sort of a trade. There's a lot of free agents on the market right now. I don't even know who in free agency would want to come here. I don't even know what they should do, but I do know that I can almost say 99% sure that TJ's out. I think Josh will be out too. I don't know what they're gonna do with Tyler Johnson. I mean, I love Tyler, but they need a point guard. They need something. I mean, Tyler's a good guy to come off the bench, but they need a point guard and they need a stretch four. They need also it'd be nice to go a season without injuries, without half your roster injured. That'd be nice. But again, as what James Jones said, they can't be having 4 rookies in their rotation. That's not going to happen. I mean, you have Elliot Kobo and DeAnthony Melton starting. What?
That's what we heard last year too.
Yeah, to be fair, we've heard this line.
Okay.
I think I finally figured out what they're trying to do with Aaron Nelson and the training staff. They're going to trade them to New Orleans for Jrue Holiday and fix the point guard situation.
That would be great.
There we go.
Jrue Holiday would be a good fit. I actually heard there are a lot of guys, especially out in the East, point guards who've been very clear about saying we would love to be in Phoenix. People who come here, despite the Suns not being good, people want to live here. If you think about living in New York during the winter, Minnesota, Chicago, any of those places, this is a great deal.
Yeah.
Cost of living, beautiful out here. Not to mention the pool parties are great, but I mean, who actually goes to pool parties when you're playing in the season, right?
Nobody does.
No one. You're at home, you're resting, you're doing everything that you should be doing. But yeah, I mean, a Jrue Holiday would be a great fit. I would like for them to maybe try to pursue a D'Angelo Russell or a Spencer Dinwiddie. One of those guys who I already know they both do have a good relationship with Booker, especially D'Angelo. So I do think something big is gonna happen. I think something big is gonna happen.
Well, they're gonna have to. And I mean, to your point about point guards in the East, there's a lot of starting quality point guards who are backups in the league in the East. So Phoenix becomes a much more attractive situation regardless of what's going on with the organization because they get a start. And that's what probably interests a lot of guys as well, as they realize, look, there's a path to an easy starting job here that I can have a fairly big impact, because when you're a point guard and you can go, hey, I can pass the ball to Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton as a starter, your value looks a lot better than sitting on the bench in the East. So.
Well, that's
I don't know. Go ahead.
Him to go to Phoenix so much. Everyone's like, no, Austin Rivers, he doesn't want to play here. No, his agent wanted him in Phoenix. It would have been great for that next paycheck.
But he didn't want to be here. He wanted to go to a winning organization, and you know what? It ended up working out for him. I'm actually happy. I mean, he annoyed the hell out of me in college. And then I saw him go to the league. I'm like, are you in the league because you're good or because your dad helped you? And then he goes to the Clippers. And I'm like, this guy. And I think a lot of that had to do with some of the relationships being broken with Blake, CP3, all those guys because of Austin. And I know that for a fact too. And then he wants to go back and play with CP3, which made no sense. I'm getting sidetracked here. But where was I going with that? This happens a lot where I'll have a point and I can't finish the point.
It's just like
And I'm
having
not
Dave
even-
on the show.
I'm not even vaping.
Well, listen, I do have another question for you then.
Yes.
Do you think that the Suns value a stretch four more than they value a defensive-minded four that doesn't stretch the floor?
Ooh. I would say they would want someone who can defend. I mean, who has a defense first mentality, but it doesn't seem like that in recent years, to be honest.
Well, how do any of us know though, Tim? Because James
don't
Jones
know.
has changed.
I don't. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I know. I'm just, but like
He's around these people. I'm not.
we're all guessing because James Jones.
I don't even know what they value at this point.
He's changed his tune so many times on what he says about things. And the only thing that's certain to me is if they don't have one or two in the draft, if it's not Zion or Ja, they're trading that pick. And really the only certainty to me is one, because I think you can't pass up on Zion, but I'm not 100% sure that they believe that Ja Morant can come in here and be the point guard they need.
I wouldn't do that either.
Well,
If I'm them, I mean, the point guard position is one of the hardest positions to play. And you're going to try to draft a rookie who had a great season this year. I'm not going to take that away from him. I mean, he proved it, but the NBA is a different level. You're playing with the best in the world, and it's different than college. I mean, when you go from college to the pros, I mean, I'm watching some of these workouts with these guys, and a lot of them are underdeveloped. A lot of them, it's like you're trying to go into the draft and you don't know how to do this and this and this. And then we're asking a guy to come in, play the point guard position to a dysfunctional organization and make an impact right away. I don't see how it's going to happen as opposed to a Zion where you know what you're going to get with him. You know, but a point guard has to know so much more. So if they're going to get a point guard, it has to be a veteran point guard. I would not even waste my pick on a rookie point guard.
No, I think you've got to leverage it for a trade. But the scary thing is, all the reports we're hearing is the Suns may actually like Ja Morant more than they like Zion Williamson. If that happens, that's insanity. If you turn down, and let's be honest, the basketball gods will not allow the Phoenix Suns to have back-to-back number one picks. That's not going to happen. So we don't have to worry about it. Basketball gods won't. I've been around.
Cleveland.
But yeah, Cleveland had LeBron. That's they were trying to make up. They were trying to make up for the fact that they lost LeBron. So the league was like, we take pity on you fans, and maybe.
No. Well, another thing I don't get too about Suns fans. No offense to Suns fans, they want Lonzo Ball here for whatever reason, and I don't understand that either.
Oh,
when I say they need a veteran point guard, I'm not talking Lonzo Ball, okay? Like I'm not. I mean, this guy gets injured every other game. He's a good point guard, but we need like an athletic point guard, and I feel like he doesn't have athleticism. He doesn't have enough of it. That's just my opinion.
So to explain it to you, how Sun, and I'm not mansplaining here or anything, but just from a Suns fan perspective,
he mansplains to me.
I do. Okay. Well, that's because Tim needs it. But listen. So if you're the way it is for Suns fans is basically if you went without eating for a week, anything looks appetizing, and that's why Lonzo Ball looks like a good option at point guard. Is basically anything that's NBA caliber with potential is an attractive option. So
let me disagree with you there. Lonzo Ball, he does not get enough credit for how good of a defender he is.
Well, that's fair, but it's not what you need right now. I mean,
they need a defender. They need somebody to basketball. I'd be okay with Lonzo. I don't want to deal with his dad. I think we all feel that way, but he is an NBA caliber player.
You know what upset me in this draft, and Dave mentioned it when me and him were talking, and we did that little like post game or post interview or post press conference video. Could you imagine if the Suns would have drafted Jalen Brunson? They probably would have been a heck of a lot better this season. At least maybe by 10 games. And they went with Elie Okobo. No offense. Elie Okobo. Why?
Ryan McDonough's not great at picking second round draft picks.
This was a no-brainer, though. This was a no-brainer. A kid who came from Villanova. You were high on Mikal Bridges, who has that same type of winning mentality, and you don't want to bring his teammate on with him? Come on, man. I was so mad. I mean,
that wasn't a front office pick, though. Mikal wasn't the guy. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the guy that they wanted and got undermined by certain people who are still there with the organization. So
he's been good too.
Dysfunction is the reason why, and I don't know. There's a lot of things that Ryan McDonough did wrong there, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that's not the case, but there were a lot of things that were undermined as well, and by people that are still sitting there in positions of power. So it's very Game of Thrones-ish, if you will, around there.
So
I haven't watched, but go ahead.
Dragan Bender. Definitely take. Is he coming back? Because I have a sneaking suspicion he is, and I'm basing that off of nothing.
I don't think he is.
No?
No. I don't think he's a good NBA player. I think it's too fast for him. I think he's a better overseas player. I don't think he's going to last in the NBA. I mean, there's guys that are playing overseas or guys in the G League who are better than him, and he's getting an opportunity to start. I mean, no offense. He's a great guy. I'm very, very sorry. All these guys are great guys. I mean, I'm so mean. Like, I wouldn't even be able to be at their level. But again, I have to speak facts. What does he bring to the team? What does he bring? I mean, he played well this season, but I think anyone could have played well in the Suns this season. You put anyone, both of you could have been thrown out there. I'm sure you guys would have made somewhat of an impact. I mean,
I never would have dropped 12 points and grabbed 10 rebounds in any game. I'll tell you that much. But look,
I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed.
I'm a Dragan Bender supporter. I still own my condo on Bender Island, and have not sold the property. But after watching what's gone on so far, I think we will see as many of Ryan McDonough's draft picks and players from the past few years that aren't named Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges stripped away from this roster and gotten rid of, regardless of how we feel about them as players, because James Jones, the theme of this episode, James Jones wants this to be his team. Dragan Bender will not be a part of this franchise.
No.
I think he winds up with the Spurs and makes another guy look unbelievably good after he leaves a franchise that they cast him aside.
That's just unfair. That's just, I mean, then if you think about it, a lot of players who end up leaving the Suns end up playing better.
Some.
It doesn't take much.
Yeah,
I know.
Eric Bledsoe, anybody?
Right. Goran Dragić.
Yeah.
Did he play better in Miami? Because he played pretty damn well for the Suns.
I thought he played well. I thought he played better in Miami. He elevated his game in Miami.
As well, at least. At the very least, he played as well. And you can't deny Eric Bledsoe has looked much better. Granted, playing next to Giannis makes a lot of people look better, but there's a lot of guys that do leave here that wind up having more success. I'm just glad the Morris brothers weren't in the grouping.
Damn.
Keith was not good.
No.
Good this postseason.
Not at all. But Bledsoe, I did talk to him when he came to town, and he could not say enough good things about the organization that he's with right now. I mean, no, you could just like feel like a different energy. Like when you walk into some of these shoot-arounds, I mean, you can't base anything off of a shoot-around. I mean, but you can feel energy and like how teams are vibing and players. And Milwaukee felt like one where it's like, wow, like they all really respect each other. Like they all really get along. They seem to really be, enjoying like being together and being on the same team. And that was when I talked to him. He couldn't say enough good things about being with that organization. I mean, he kept like bringing it up too. So I almost felt like, are you taking a stab at other organizations that are not very good or what? I mean, not going to make any assumptions here, but he said a lot of good things about them. So I'm happy for him.
EB is very happy in Milwaukee and was very frustrated here for numerous reasons. One of which, like we talked about on last week's episode, was knowing that Earl Watson got strong-armed out because of Eric Bledsoe's contract demand, and that Watson wasn't willing to fire Clutch Sports. So like there's a lot of reasons why guys are happier when they leave here. EB is just one of those guys, and it's showing on the court right now.
And I hope they keep Kelly Oubre.
They will.
Praying. I know. I think they're going to.
They're going to overpay immensely for Kelly.
What is
I like Kelly.
overpay? What is an overpay? I feel like he's going to come down around 15, 16. Do they overpay all the way up to 20?
I think 17 to 19 is the range he winds up in, and it's an overpay.
Ooh.
I thought he played well this season. I thought he is worthy of a good contract.
I don't deny that he played well, and I don't deny that he's worthy of a good contract. But a good contract in my mind for him is 13 to 15. I think you get in that.
That's not bad.
17 to 19. You go, okay. Is he really? If you look at this and you're projecting out, and championship is what you want, is he the third best player on a championship team? No, and that's the kind of money that you're going to have to spend on a second or third best player on a championship team when you're trying to add this, and you lock him in at that, it's going to create some financial problems for you down the road. And so
this is true. They need him in terms of like I said, what he brings, not just his game, but just that whole demeanor, that whole attitude. Another guy I really hope doesn't leave, but he might leave, is Jamal Crawford. And he did say at the press conference he doesn't like to hop around from team to team. But then he also tweeted that he needs to make the playoffs next season.
He gone.
So it sounds to me that he's going to be gone. Hold on. Getting FaceTime calls right now.
Or he really believes that the Suns are going to make the playoffs next season.
Yeah.
I think that's a stretch. So I think he is going to be out. But that's unfortunate because, again, they really could have used his veteranship, his leadership there. And I think Booker took a lot from him. DeAndre took a lot from him. All those guys took a lot from him. And they need someone like that because if he goes, what do they have? Who's the oldest guy on the team?
Troy Daniels, if they keep him, which I doubt.
They're not going to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, look,
he's gone too.
They'll have to sign new veteran guys in this offseason, and that's
$8 billion.
Yeah, their cap space is another.
Well, who's going to want to come here?
But why did Jamal Crawford come here? Because nobody else was knocking on his door, and they were willing to pay him a couple $1 million. I mean, that's the reality of it.
But the Suns need someone that does have all the people wanting to knock on the door.
Yeah,
you can't just get these leftovers. Not saying Jamal Crawford's a leftover, but
Jamal Crawford was a leftover.
Oh man, I'm not going to say all that.
I like Jamal.
I love Jamal.
He's a leftover.
He can still ball. I mean, he can still play.
No, but what I'm saying is nobody else wanted him. He sat there for as long as he did because nobody else was knocking on his door. So
that's sad.
Look, culture is important, but it's treated as a buzzword here, and it's not built on fear and chaos. Culture is built on a bedrock of stability and leadership, and
trust.
And right now, the Suns don't have any of that. The head coaching job is going to be the first step in that. If it's a guy like Monty Williams, I might buy in that they have a chance to build that because it's a well-respected guy. But we'll see. And you can't treat culture flippantly, and I feel like that's the way they have.
Well, I want to say what a positive episode this has been. Ashley, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
You come on, we'll have to be a bit more optimistic about the current state of the franchise.
So we'll talk about 5
things.
Hey, Tim.
Talk about the playoffs.
Tim, next week this may be the Pelicans' nest because if the training staff winds up in New Orleans, I may be done talking about Phoenix. So we may be talking about the New Orleans Pelicans.
I would not mind that at all.
We all need a break. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on. You can find her on Twitter at Ashley Nevel, a reporter for Brightside of the Sun, at Espo, Grace Bizito. I'm Tim Tompkins at Radio Tim NBA. Don't forget that if you want to support the Sun Solar Panel podcast, just open up those show notes below, hit the support the show button, and we will be back next week.